Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, the 5th of August, 2022, and welcome to Hindsight, where we learn to be a better trader. We're going to take a look at the stock ticker TEM, along with what should have been a good trade that ended up turning into a bit of a nightmare because I ended up negotiating with myself. It's something that happens every now and then. This little voice in my head, this little bitch voice, turns me into a little bitch and subsequently into an amateur trader. So I'm going to go through the psychology of the trade, more importantly than the trade itself. And real briefly, we'll look at the technicals first. This is the daily chart. TEM is known for being a bit of a pump and dumper. It's done it so on two occasions. We've got a third occasion here happening today. And this key level here at 6 cents is a horizontal, which will play a pretty significant part in my decision making today. So we're going to take a look at the news announcement that came out, and this is in the middle of the day. And let me just check at what time this came out. So the news would have come out around 11 o'clock. Stock opened at just before 11:15. This was the news announcement. Some acquisition of a transaction valued at 26 mil. And we've got a company that was just under 20 mil market cap, ended up opening at around 24 million market cap. So a nice little 20% gain from the pre-market. So we scroll down. This is actually quite a long document to process, but the important part is the deal. Now the deal, or the financial component of these kinds of announcements, don't usually show up straight away. We usually have some sort of document or announcement that says, hey, we're negotiating so-and-so takeover, or we're going to purchase so-and-so. And then it's just discussions and MOUs and shit. But what we have here is we straight up have a plan, a deal in place. We've got completing due diligence, which is perfectly fine. And then we actually have an issue price, basically what is a capital raise. So the shares will be issued at 5.44 cents, effectively 5.5 to 5.4 cents, right? And there's an equity value of 26 mil market cap there. So key number here, 5.5 cents, 5.4 rather. The stock opened up at 4.8. It was negative surplus. I probably should have just paid up, but I didn't. Ended up marketing in as it stonked. Got a little bit of the pie, and as you can see, it ended up going to this 5.4 level. Hit it, pulled back, bounced again. I can't recall if it was this time or this time that I ended up getting the 5.2 entry. And I thought, okay, that was a pretty bad entry. Realistically, I mean, I thought maybe it would start shooting to the upside, but you know, it wasn't a significant entry, but I did end up catching my one good bounce here at 4.9, right in front of this double bottom at 4.8. I thought the news was a little bit too good and the volumes too significant, and you can see the nice taper off of volumes as well. I thought it was too significant to just collapse, and if it did, stop loss is pretty obvious. It's just one tick below, and it's a mental stop, you know, because I think there might have been a pretty significant wall there at 4.7, so maybe sell into the wall, watch it reload perhaps. Long story short, you know, could have queued for 4.8 as well. I think that got line wiped. Either way, that was a good entry as well. So ended up getting, I think it was like 5.1 plus 5.2. So 5.1, one of these at 5.2, 4.9, and then it just rallied and broke. Good volumes arrived. Let me just clear these lines. So we got a nice significant candle here of volume, right? There's an add-on point. Didn't end up adding on. I kind of just let it go. I didn't want to add on size to what I already had until we had confirmation that it was breaking this 5.4, which it was. Broke, pull back, add on, add on, add on. So we got nice add-ons, multiple add-ons as it went up. My sell is at 5.9. I'm sitting here in the book. I've got I can't remember how many orders I've got in there at 5.9, but I probably should have scaled out. But, you know, as I mentioned, this 6 cent level here was a pretty significant level, and I thought I'd close out before it at 5.9. From memory, 6 cents had a 2 mil or 2.4 mil wall off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that one, could be wrong, but just from memory, there was a pretty big wall. And then below it at 5.9, there was effectively not too much, maybe like 300 or 400k shares. So kind of added on to that. And unfortunately, it hit 5.8, ended up selling at 5.7 on high volume. That was kind of the first sort of warning of, maybe something's not right here, or we may have topped. That's only one signal, and I'm not too concerned. I'm a little bit bummed out because, taking it from 5.8 straight down to 5.6, that's 2 ticks, and I'm literally just a tick off. And there's so much volume and liquidity coming through that it felt like, it should have probably got there, but it didn't. So it doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, I can queue up at 5.4 again. That's fine. So, because I didn't want to sell at 5.6, because what can happen here as well is just a good recovery and it just goes back up. But realistically, I don't think selling at 5.6 here would have been necessarily the best idea. Adding on at 5.4 is always, every single day of the week, a good thing, I find, right? Here's your range break, 5.4. There's your horizontal, your first range break. So break, retest, go for the next leg up, right? We're on the first wave here. You could argue that this might be the first wave. So 1, 2 waves, fine. 3 waves is what we want. It's very standard stuff. So if I bring up VWAP, the important line here is the green dotted line. The second signal of concern was the rug pull here, that it actually wicked down to 5.3. The buy side pulled about 1.5 million, I think, off the top of my head, did not get sold into, but 5.3 got sold into, basically a VWAP touch, and then it bounced straight back up, which I thought, okay, this could be a fake out. Volumes are lowering, and this was a key decision behind my thinking, was there was no volume spikes of red to push it down from 5.4 to 5.3 or through 5.4, just any level. There was no high volume selling, right? And this is where the negotiation phase started for me. So this was fine. That was fine. Doing it once is okay. So first signal of concern, high volume sell. Okay, that's fine. Second concern was the rug pull at 5.4, which is a key level. You don't really see rug pulls at key levels, but I kind of negotiated with myself that it was okay because it's at 5.3. It's a VWAP rug pull, and it bounced straight back up to 5.6. And so I was like, okay, there's 2 signs of concern, but I really should never see 5.3 again. 5.4 maybe, as it does, and then it tests 5.3. Like, okay, this is where I should have just instantly hit out. This should have been game over, but I didn't want to be wrong. It's not that it's a little bit of not wanting to be wrong and thinking that, hey, hold on, this is VWAP, it's key level, there's no high volume selling. And I was negotiating with myself whether that was more important than the few signals that I just had before that are basically telling me to sell. 3 signals now. Hitting VWAP a second time, breaking this 5.4 like it didn't even matter, should have been an instant sell signal. But what did I do? I negotiated with myself like a little fucking bitch. Right? The moment I negotiate with myself, I've lost the trade, and I know it. Even in real time, I kind of knew it. I was thinking I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm still doing it. It's mostly a little bit of I don't want to call it a revenge trade. It was just really missing out on this 5.9 target sort of tilted me a little bit. Just the fact that it got so close. And that, how could I be wrong, right? You know what it's like. So anyway, negotiation phase kicks in. You know what? If 5.3 sells off, I'll just queue up at 5.3 to close out my position. So what happens? It sells off once, and then it restacks the bid. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, this is what we want to see. There's no high volume selling. So I negotiate with myself some more. 5.3 wipes again, stacks again. And then it wicks down to 5.2. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Maybe it's just consolidating at this kind of level. There's no high volumes coming in yet. And that was actually a pretty big part of my decision making was the fact that there was no high volumes in either direction. So to me, in my own head, I was like, this is a low volume pullback. And I kind of ignored that the key levels were broken, right? 5.4 and 5.3, they were getting broken. Well, low volumes, and it's just a low volume pullback. Negotiating with myself like a little bitch. So ended up doing, again, if 5.2 sells through, I'll just queue up at 5.2 and sell, right? So if the bids get wiped, I'll just be on the offer because like 90% of the time I'll get filled anyway. So anyway, I did end up taking a partial at 5.2 and the rest at 5.1. So I don't know whereabouts in 5.1, but it was before this. It was definitely before this 5-cent touch because that would have freaked me out. So what should have been a sensible 5.4 or even a 5.3 trade ends up being a partial at 5.2 and 5.1. You call that a 5.1.5 sell effectively. And then what happens? Of course, it just flops and fails because there's no such thing as a triple bottom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whichever donkey is buying this stock at 4.8 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, nearly towards close, man, I feel bad for him. But I can't judge. I've made a complete botched trade that was well in the green, and then just convinced myself, talked to myself into holding the position. Thankfully not adding on too much. I kind of stopped at this sort of 5.4 level, wherever it ended up being on the retest. That made sense, perfect sense. Didn't add on at 5.3, so I'm happy about that. But I talked myself into a bad trade, like it was my first year in trading all over again. So unfortunately, these little things happen. Every now and then I find myself slipping like this. It's a psychological trap. It's not a matter of an issue with execution. It's not a matter of market knowledge. It's not a matter of understanding the fundamentals so much. It's just psychology, right? Talking myself into a trade, holding on to it, and that's all it is. Little bitch voice in my head turned me into a little bitch trader, and that's all it is. And hopefully, maybe some of you guys can recognize and identify that little bitch voice in your head that's making you do shit that you know is wrong, but you still talk yourself that it's okay. There's another level. There's just one more tick. Now that one more tick starts turning you into a red. And then the red, you don't want red. You want to close in green. So then you wait for the trade to go green. It never comes green. And then it's just tick after tick after tick. And the worst case is when someone does this and buys at 4.8 and does it with size, hoping to just get a couple of ticks to break even somewhere at this sort of basing level. It's like that kind of stuff really snowballs out of control. So keep in mind, guys, don't listen to the little bitch voice in your head. It does no good.